In this tutorial, I want to show you how to attach the lining yoke to the main yoke. So we start at the back opening, and so we'll just want to, you can see here that I've already put my button loop, stitched that on to the left side, and also kind of pinned it down so that it doesn't get caught in my stitching. And we'll want to lay the lining on top of the main fabric around the neckline and the back opening. So you can see my two pieces right here are getting to be together, and we could just go ahead and start with the left side here. So you can see right here we have the bottom of the back opening stitched. We did that just a little bit ago, and so right where that seam ends, that stitch ends, we'll want to line it up to the main fabric where that stitch ends. All right, we can go ahead and start pinning. And just continue all the way. And then let's line up the shoulder seams. And continue around the neckline to the other shoulder seam. I like to do those first and then pin in the middle. All right, and now we're at the right side of the back opening, so just continue. And again, we want to line up the main and the lining at that stitch on the bottom. So just kind of see where that is. And we don't want anything in between there. Just those two fabrics. Okay, so let's look at it. So this is what you should be looking at. And let's go ahead and start sewing. So I like to start at the left side here, and let me grab my pedal here. And again, let's just lift it up just for clarity purposes. You're not stitching anything except the main and the lining together right at that stitch. So just start where that stitch ends. We're going to start right there. And I like to back stitch this just to kind of give it a good stitch there. Pivot right, one more stitch. Pivot right at that half an inch, that corner. Make sure your stitch, your seam allowance is a half an inch. Lifting up your fabrics to make sure you're not catching anything underneath there. Right now we're stitching around the neckline in the front. Perfect. Okay. Now we're coming to the other back opening here. We're going to pivot again. And again, we're going to go right directly to that stitch, that bottom stitch. So we have everything flat, and we're only sewing the main and the lining right there. Just sew right down to that stitch. I like the back stitch there. Alrighty. So we can take out our pins. What you'll want to do now is just trim the seam allowance off. So I like to start with the lining part, trim, and then just go ahead and diagonally trim that off, snip it, and then trim all the way around the neckline to the next corner, trim that off, and then of course go ahead and trim the lining, and then open it to the back side where the main fabric is and trim that just straight, and then you can turn it inside out, well, clip it and then turn it inside out, and you got yourself a lined yoke.